This episode of Cognitive Dissonance is brought to you by our patrons. You fucking rock. Be advised that this show is not for children, the faint of heart, or the easily offended. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago, this is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 492, not to be confused with the aforementioned but yet to be released 492 Part A, which will be 493?
Which will be 493, but when we read it, when we read it, it was 492. So it's going to come out and there'll be probably a correction for me and it's like, no, that's actually 493. We're hoping we're going to release it next Thursday, but we reviewed The Family and we're going to release that next week.
My Family did not review well.
Yeah.
Not at all.
1 star.
I'm trying to think if I had to review My Family, how poorly that would go.
1 star.
Yeah, right. It'd be like the fucking Motor Inn at the TripAdvisor website, you know, like, My Family, bed bugs.
So, Tom.
Yes, sir.
We just got back from New York City.
Yeah.
We went out there to do a Citation Needed show, which went off amazing.
It was so fun.
Great time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk for a second about pizza.
Oh.
So,
all right.
So I want to never, ever, ever, ever hear from anyone ever again about how people know more about pizza than we do. And here's how I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so the people that are normally attacking us about pizza, let's pick just three random
people. Okay.
So the first one is a vegan, right? Who literally can't even eat pizza. If he does, he'll die. Okay? He will die. He can't eat any kind of proteins at this point. At this point, he's just like a breatharian. He's like this weird, he's existing in this really weird sort of stasis place where he can only have like nutrient juice and things.
I did ask if oysters were on the menu for him because they're like,
this is Eli we're talking about.
Yeah. He's like, I can't eat any proteins that were once alive.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He's like, I can't, if I can have empathy for it, I could never have eaten it. So Eli's out. Nothing Eli says is worth a shit.
Right.
Noah.
Yeah.
Has been smoking cigarettes, like 45 packs of cigarettes a day since
the womb,
1815. Okay. So that's number one. Now, to be honest, I will say this. Of the people that have a right to say anything about pizza, Noah is the one I will take the most, I will give the most credence to because he's the kind of guy who's like a connoisseur when it comes to like mac and cheese and things, right? Yeah. Like he'll tell you what the best chicken fingers are on the menu, but still don't care. Okay.
He's a kid food connoisseur, right?
I go out after we're done. Heath says, Cecil, you got to come with me. We're going to go get real pizza. We get finished. at this show. We drank until everybody was done. Cool. We walk back to the hotel. Heath is like, I'm going to take you to this place. And he takes me to 33 some bullshit pizza place. No bathroom in this place, right? I got to piss like a goddamn racehorse. I walk in, fucking no bathroom in this place. So I'm fucking standing there, fucking crossing my legs. My eyes are turning yellow and I'm waiting and they have all the pizza sitting out. It's all that sitting out like that. And as soon as I walk in, Ian is very uncomfortable and he keeps telling me over and over, please do not order pizza that's been sitting out. Just order a new pie. And I was like, I don't have time for a new pie because I had to piss.
Also, that's not the authentic experience.
I was like, I don't want to do this. He's just like, he's looking at me so intently, Tom, and he's staring at me and he's basically begging me. He's like, do not do this. You will get food poisoning. You do not understand. He's like the Secret Service guy getting ready to jump and knock it out of my hand.
Well, I do tip him to be the taster, our royal taster.
I tell you, he was so nervous about me ordering.
He loves you.
I ordered 2. slices of sausage and pepperoni pizza.
Okay.
The sausage was absolutely awful. And when I mean awful, I mean genuinely awful. Okay. It was sliced all weird. So they didn't slice it. You know how you normally slice it across on a bias or whatever?
Yeah, right.
They sliced it down. So they sliced it long ways and it was like in strips. Super weird, right? It was like strips of sausage. Super weird. The pepperoni was fine, but it was super greasy. I get the 2 pieces of pizza. And I have to hold them, fold them, channel the grease out of them. I eat them. They're fucking passable, barely average pizza. It is Sbarro pizza, folks. It's not amazing. It's Sbarro. It's literally in every mall food court. It's not impressive. The thing that that fucking 100% excludes Heath from this conversation forever, Tom, is that he was eating a piece of pizza with penne pasta on it.
Wait, excuse me?
I'm not even lying right now.
Wait, slow down.
He had a
did he dunk it in a pasta salad?
He had a piece of pizza that they put penne pasta on, and then he threw it back in the oven.
To crisp the pasta?
Pulled it out, and then he put it in his maw. Fuck you, Heath Enright. You can never tell me about any food ever again, ever, period. The end.
Wait a minute.
You will never be never.
Pasta as a topping?
Never. The end.
He's garbage. He's garbage.
The end.
Why would you even have that as an available option? Like, that's like having
you didn't have enough carbs on your pizza? You're like, you know what I really need is the carb load in my pizza.
Was it like mostaccioli?
Yes, it was penne. It was penne on top of it. So they took a penne and they did a thing.
With sauce?
Yeah, there's sauce on it and cheese. And he's eating it. I'm like, is that penne? And he's like, oh, it's so good. I'm like, you're an asshole.
That is the weirdest thing I ever heard.
Seconds from knocking it out of his hand. I was so upset.
You should have killed him outright. I think that should be punishable by death.
Ordered his own fresh pie. And it was a margarita because Ian's a vegetarian. I tried a piece of that and it was bland. It's boring. I
like margarita.
I do too.
That's one of my.
It's a different cheese. They use a different cheese on it than they use. So the cheese that they use out there is super greasy and super salty, right? So the cheese that they have is a really salty. And I will say this. It could be the best part of their pizza in New York is the cheese. It could be the very best part. I also don't dislike the texture of the crust. I think that the folding of the texture of the crust, and especially if it's crisp, I think that's pleasant. I just think the whole pizza eating experience there, where you got to stand, you got to walk up and there's some fucking weird sausage sliced on a wrong way. And it's and then there's a dude back there who's yelling at you to get you out. All of it is the worst. And the food is just subpar. So I never want to hear it again. I tried 3 different pizzas while I was out there. They were all average, okay? So don't tell me that it's the best thing ever, and don't ever point to anybody else, especially that crew, as if they are some sort of authority in this. They are not. They are not an authority. They lost all their credentials when they put penne on a fucking pizza.
I don't even understand. Is it baked in
I don't even know the process that it would actually work, Tom.
What world are you living in where you're I gotta think of another pizza topping? I don't know.
What about baked ziti?
Yeah. We gotta put a lasagna on it. People make fun of us. They're that's not a pizza, that's lasagna. It's literally putting lasagna on your pizza.
Yeah, literally what he ate was a lasagna pizza. That's exactly it. That's exactly
what is happening.
They're oh, it's a bread bowl with sauce on it. Well, you ate fucking, you couldn't decide which dish to eat, so you just mixed it all together. Fuck you.
I will say I did not get an opportunity to eat any of the iconic New York foods. We're just so busy. Any of the iconic New York foods I set out to have. But I did have a lobster roll. So out here, all the lobster rolls I've had have been essentially like a lobster salad. This lobster roll was just garlic bread folded with just lobster in it. Just lobster, warm, delicious. And it was outstanding. That was I don't think that's a New York thing. I think that's just an East Coast thing.
It's like a New England
thing. I think it's more of a New England thing. Yeah. It's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
I would 100% do that every time I go back
and
there.
I also want to say, I'm not being a bitch about this because I did have good food when I was out there.
Right.
I'm not saying that I didn't have good food because I had a bagel sandwich that I thought was very good. I had another sandwich at like a deli that was like crisped up and delicious. So I'm not saying that like the food is terrible. I thought the food was good. The pizza's just bad.
Well, next time I go out, I will report on, I'm going to get maybe a cheeseburger on it or a taco or something.
Just get
I'll get a lobster roll on top of it.
See if you could get another guy eating pizza on it. Just have a Russian nesting doll of pizzas.
First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Do whatever steps you want if you have cleared them with the pontiff. Everybody say his own, Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican right.
This story is fucking amazing. This is from CNN. Vatican launches $110 click to pray wearable rosary. Like, wearables are they're not all the rage, but like wearables are a thing some people can buy. This is essentially a rosary Fitbit. How are you fit or hell?
It's a chapel watch. I want to say though, if you are interested in having something go click on your beads, you can go to adamandeve.com, type in Gloria, check out. You could probably get rosary anal beads there. I imagine that they probably do. So if you wanted to get some of those, you go to adamandeve.com, type in Gloria, check out, get 50% off almost any item, budget-free stuff, and free shipping. So they have this thing
That's so great.
that they want to try to make like a wristwatch where you click on it and it'll like start to tell the rosary to you. Like, could you look, Vatican, stay away from video games, stay away from apps, stay away from... Your shit is just boring. You're just going to have to admit that the shit we do is boring. You're never going to be like, hey, kids, want to pray?
Somebody sitting around some boardroom in the Vatican was like, how do we make praying fun? And it's just like, you can't. It's fucking praying.
Yeah.
It's something that your grandma does.
Right.
Like, nothing your grandma does is amazing. That's why she's your grandma and she dried up. And if you're dried up and you'd like to fix it, you can head over to adamandeve.com, hit Gloria checkout, and get yourself a splash of whatever you need.
I will say this. Have you ever heard the rosary being read?
I don't know.
Okay,
no.
So the rosary is a short prayer that they say. It's Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you, something, blah, blah, blah. I don't know the rest of it. I just know a little bit of it. And it's like, now in the time of something, it's like really short, but it's like maybe 6 lines. And I know somebody will send it to us. I'm sure somebody's going to send it to us as soon as this happens, but it's like 6 lines short. And the rosary is said, you say 4 Hail Marys and then 1 Our Father and then 4. I think that's how it works. I mean, again, it's all vague to me. It's all vaguely remembering how this works. But what happens is there are certain times that they do this in the church where everybody in the church will do it. And they were doing it one time when I went to church. Now I'm an atheist at this point. And I wound up in a church 30 minutes before the service. I was traveling.
Okay.
And we wound up going into a church 30 minutes before the service. And there's a whole crowd of people all chanting the same thing for 30 straight minutes. They're doing the rosary. And they're just Hail Mary, full of grace, blah, 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 blah.
Is that
Hail
the
Mary,
function of the rosary, is to create a meditative
I think so.
headspace?
But it's creepy as shit when you hear it aloud.
I can't even imagine.
It's weird. Like you hear it and you're just like, it feels like I don't know. It feels like leader stuff. Like it feels super weird, and it feels weird to be in there, and it feels extra weird to not be doing it too.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah.
It feels extra weird because everybody's just like, it feels like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they're gonna be like they're gonna stare at you and point. but this is like, but the rosary is a genuinely strange thing when you hear a whole group of people chanting it.
I have literally never heard, because I wasn't Catholic, I've never heard rosary. I'm trying to imagine a world where the Catholic Church is like, the reason young people don't want to come to the Catholic Church isn't because we raped most of them.
No, it's because of the gadgets.
It's like, well, What do the millennials want? Oh, the millennials, they want a wearable rosary. They don't want your rosary. Here's how you activate the rosary. You make the sign of the cross, and that turns your gadget on. So, like, I don't think the problem with the Catholic Church's like inability to keep members is that like it's not cool. It's never gonna be cool. Like, you could fucking have a robo animatronic Jesus come down from the fucking cross and sing songs like Chuck E. Cheese.
Admittedly,
I would go.
Admittedly,
I'm wrong.
I'm already starting to be like, if someone could program their Chuck E. Cheese thing to do like Christian rock songs, and like Joel Osteen is the fucking raccoon, the trash panda that talks, I would definitely be down for that.
Would you go to Chuck E. Jesus?
Chuck E. Jesus? Chuck E. Jesus, I would definitely go. Although the food there is just wafers. So
it's just not as
like, it's not as
still
exciting.
better than Chuck E. Cheese's.
It's also better than New York style pizza.
I will relay this story. So Haley and her kids are from New York. They moved to Chicago. We go to a Chuck E. Cheese the first 6-8 months or something that we're there, that they're here. And Donovan, my stepson, grabs a slice of this fucking garbage.
And Chuck E. Cheese is absolutely the worst
lowest
pizza.
bar.
It's the lowest quality. It's lower than Cece's.
It is. Yeah.
It's lower than Cece's. And that's saying something. That's saying something.
That's the pizza you get when you can't afford Domino's. Yeah. Like when Domino's is like, oh, what are we, rich? We're getting Domino's.
What are you driving a Bentley getting Papa John's over there?
Oh, some of us can't put gas in our Ford Fiesta. You know, like he gets this slice of Chuck E. Cheese and he bites into it, and a look of just joyous recognition climbs over his face, and he's like, it tastes like New York. And I was just like,
yeah, it does, buddy.
Like, this right now is a moment that I'm never going to forget.
Yeah, it does, buddy. Sure does. It smells like garbage in here.
Well, Elder McKinley, I think it's okay that you're having gay thoughts, just so long as you never act upon them.
Being gay is bad, but lying is worse. So just realize you have a curable curse and turn it on. Turn it on.
All right, so this story comes from ABC4, but it also came from just kind of everywhere. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints opposes rule that would ban conversion therapy, says it fails to protect individual religious beliefs.
What they mean to say there is it fails to protect the religious beliefs of the people who want to hurt someone.
It does not fail to protect the person who's gay.
It's not the person who's gay who's like, I really wish that this would go away. Instead, it's the family who's like, you can't be gay. We need to beat it out of you, so you need to go to this thing. It's protecting their religious. It's like protecting an abuser's religious beliefs.
That's exactly like I was thinking about this thing. It's like, well, I have a right to beat my wife. And if we make wife beating illegal, then as a wife beater, like, how am I going to be? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Can you hear you?
It's funny that we do. I know you can hit your kids. You can spank your kids. But there's like a level at which that's not cool, right? It's like where you go to jail for it, right? Like you can, and I think it's in every state you can spank your kids. Like it's totally allowed in every state to like wallop your kids in the United States because we're super backward and stupid. And we think that's awesome.
Is it illegal in other countries?
It is. It's illegal.
Spank your kids?
It's illegal in I want to say Sweden and France for sure. It's illegal. You can't hit your kids, which is good. Good for them.
I don't think you need to wallop your kids.
Yeah, you don't need to hit your kids.
It's nice to have the option. Don't get me wrong.
I understand it. But there's, you don't, but at some point we are like enshrining, because we have all these weird rules in this country where we enshrine abusers and we allow abusers to do horrible shit. Like I was saying, like hitting your kids is one of those things that we just allow people to do. Same thing here. It's like we're allowing them to be like, and really genuinely, most people that are gay are at an age where they're past, where they can be physically abused, right? You're in a teen or a tween age at the very earliest, right? Most of the time you're past that. You're right near the cusp of when you leave the house. Spanking a teenager
is weird, right?
Yeah, spanking a teenager. Now, how are we talking here?
I feel like we've digressed. Don't just everybody stop the thing you're thinking about.
Everybody stop going to Pornhub right now.
Okay, we'll give you 7 minutes. Everybody needs 7 minutes.
Hold on, let me just look that up real quick. But seriously, these kids are anybody who's coming out at that age at a young. You're not coming out at a young age. You're not 2 or 3 coming out.
Right.
You're already maybe even close. You're probably post-sexually active at that point, and you're still enshrining in the parents the ability to abuse that child. It's crazy to me.
It is, but it's part of a. There's kind of a cultural phenomenon. I don't know if it exists in other places, but it certainly exists here, where there's a sense that parents own their children.
Yeah.
And that you have, as a parent, like, and you'll hear it. It's built into a lot of the language that we use around parenting through divisive issues, right? So the vaccine crowd is like, I'm the parent, I make all the rules. Like, and that suggests that, like, I'm the parent, so I have ownership of this person. I have ultimate say as parents of this person. Sure. It's like, no, I mean, like, you're the guardian, like, you are the caretaker, you're the custodian of their well-being. You are not the owner. Like, you are many roles as a parent, but you are not the owner of this other human being. We never get to own another human being.
Sure.
But you hear it when people are like, well, it's my kid, I can hit him.
Yeah.
It's my kid, I can do this. It's my kid.
Yeah.
My possessive.
Yeah.
And to some degree, I understand that, because anything that you're responsible for.
You are absolutely responsible for it, so I get it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a part I get.
Right. The things that we are responsible for, we also have some authority over.
Sure.
For sure. You can't have one without the other, right? So, but we have a larger issue where we say, like, I own this kid. I own them. And they are subject to my whims. And if I want them to not be gay, I can send them to conversion therapy.
Yeah. I can make them not be gay.
do with them as I want.
Yeah.
And there isn't, like, we don't have the kind of social structures that can invasively protect children from parents who would do them terrible harms. I mean, schools are supposed to be on the front line of seeing it.
Sure. It's interesting too, because I thought that the Mormons had come out and sort of retraced their steps a couple years ago. If you remember, there was sort of they did a lot of takesies backsies, especially for Prop 8 and other stuff. They were like, it seemed like they
got a new revelation.
They were talking out of, they had a new revelation, and they were talking out of one side of their mouth. We found out from other people that that's not true, that they were always still kind of anti-gay, even if they weren't as vociferous about it.
Right.
But this is another way that they're going to be, that this sort of conversion therapy stuff, it's horrible. It's a horror. It doesn't work. It's not something that we should be doing to people. We should be embracing people how they are and not worrying about their sexuality so much.
Not at all. Do you think a part of it is like there's an undercurrent within the religious narrative that if something, then that's what makes you gay. So then logically, if something else, it can make you straight.
Yeah.
That, like, they come down so hard on the nurture side of the argument when it comes to homosexuality versus heterosexuality. Like, your sexuality is, in their mind, like this tabula rasa moment in your life where it's written based on your experience. Like, I saw dick at the wrong time. It's funny because, like, it cannot possibly match. It cannot possibly match with the anecdotal life experiences of the people who believe that.
Of everybody. Because
it's so bizarre.
You wind up, at that one moment in your life, you saw a pee-pee and that changed your whole life. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. So when I was a young boy, I used to take showers with my dad when I was a very young boy, right? Yeah. When I was a little kid. I'm sure a lot of people did. Right. I know when I was a little boy, that's what I did. My dad would be like, I'd have to clean up, and my dad would be like, you gotta get in the, you're gonna take a shower. And so I saw a dick at a young age.
Right.
I wasn't like, God, I gotta get one of those.
Right.
I had a huge crush on the babysitter at 5.
Right.
Like, my sexuality was not formed by what I saw, you know what I mean? Because I never saw a titty.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I never saw any tits when I was a kid.
Right.
I never saw open breasts, and I never saw, any cooch. But I'll tell you what, I sure as hell wanted it at 5. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it just flies in the face of of all of that stuff. It's like there's a lot of that shit that's pre-programmed into you.
So let's say, for the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Just one small problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
God, this guy's such a little turd, isn't he?
Oh my
He's
God.
such a little turd.
How fucking awful is Ben Shapiro?
He's
Like on a
such
scale from 1 to Ben Shapiro.
He's such a little turd. He's such a little shitty human being.
I want to talk to him.
Do you?
Like, he's one of those people that I actually would like to talk to him because he's inscrutable to me in terms of like, he's seen as an intellectual on the right. And he is one of the least intellectual people. And I've seen him on a number of programs and I'm just baffled by his appeal.
Yeah.
And his arguments seem so apparently on their face flimsy.
Yeah.
And this is a great example. So this is from the Progressive Secular Humanist blog. So Beto O'Rourke, and I can't fucking stand Beto.
I can't either. I can't either.
Cannot stand it.
We're going to talk a little bit later on about some of the candidates that are running. We might even do it as a patron only. We're not sure. We might not get to it in this show. We might just do it as a patron only. But we are going to talk about the latest debate, and we will talk about Beto O'Rourke for sure.
So one of the questions that was asked of Beto recently was like, should churches lose their tax-exempt status if they are, I don't remember, like mean to homosexuals?
Yeah, if they oppose same-sex marriage.
Right. And he said, yeah, absolutely. Fuck that noise. And his answer, I thought, in this case was actually a great answer.
Sure.
It was immediate and unequivocal.
Yeah.
He said yes. And he was like, look, there's no room for that nonsense, right? So Ben Shapiro loses his fool mind. And also he loses complete sense of the question scope.
Yeah.
As well as the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Because he responds by saying like, the government doesn't get to raise my kid. And if anybody shows up at my door to tell me how to raise my kid, I'll be there waiting for him with a gun.
How does that have to do with anything about whether or not your church has tax exempt status? What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
There is a conflation on the right with the tax exempt status being some kind of equivalent to freedom.
Yeah.
As if, like, I pay taxes.
Yeah.
Also, I am free. I am no step on snack free.
Yeah.
Like, I'm free all day long, free. Don't tread on me.
Yeah.
But I still pay taxes.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that you pay taxes in no way disassembles Johnny Five.
Yeah.
I am free. I'm a citizen of this country.
Yeah.
It just means that I have to pay taxes. I'm baffled at how, like, the church would have to pay taxes. Okay.
Yeah.
What? And then what other bad thing?
And then what happens?
Right.
And how does that change the church's teachings?
Well, the church can't afford to pay taxes.
And what
get the fuck out of here.
Well, what he's saying is that they'll have to change what they're thinking because they don't want to pay taxes. Well, then that's not an institution you want to look to for your morality.
Right.
If they're so swayed by whether or not they have to pay a little extra into the kitty that they're going to change their entire ideology based on that, then why the fuck do you even follow it in the first place, you little shit? It doesn't even make any sense.
It's so pathetic.
And it also, this is one of those fucking Charlie Bronson bullshit moments that the right love to fucking jerk off on their own face about, where they're just like, you come to my door, man, and I'll have my gun on me, and then you'll see, and then you'll get the fuck out of here. Nobody's going to come to your door to collect money for your church on how much they paid for taxes.
Right.
It's literally a conflict that'll never happen, and you can act like a tough guy because it'll never happen.
It also reinforces like, well, you got to get your gun. Got to get your gun, right? Got to put my gun on. Got to wear it just in case the impossible happens. They could make my church pay taxes, and then I would have to shoot the government.
And the government shows up at my door. The entire government. Yeah.
It's the government. We're here to raise your kids. I'd be like, terrific.
I love that he's like, yeah, if you want to raise my kids, you got to get through me. And we're just like, get the fuck out of here. There's no threat of that. Nobody's saying that.
It's not even germane to the
I know. It's like,
it's so weird. It's like if you were a Stegosaurus, I would eat a Tyrannosaurus.
Or it's even just like, no one's going to take my carrots away. It's just like, okay, cool story.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody was aiming for your carrots, but You put them where you want, Ben. Nobody cares.
It's so non sequitur. It's unbelievable.
China has total respect for Donald Trump's very, very large brain. They call her Pocahontas. I am the chosen one. You are fake news. Okay. I am the least racist person. Look at my African American over here. Look at him. It's a camera. Grab him by the pussy. Stop it.
So this weekend, Trump, we don't have any stories really. We do want to talk about how his new secretary chief of staff outwardly said that there was quid pro quo for the Ukraine, and then walked it back an hour later, but literally said out loud, we withheld aid because we wanted them to do a thing for us, and we wanted that thing to be done, and we withheld aid until they said that they did it. And so like, that's a thing that they said out loud. They've been saying all of these things out loud since the beginning. We also have Trump's weirdly worded letter to Erdogan, Erdogan then threw it in the garbage and then told his minister to tell Trump that he threw it in the garbage. So those are the two main stories. There's a lot more that's been going on with Trump lately. He had a meltdown, evidently had a meltdown at one of those big meetings, one of the big board meetings that they had. But those are the two main things.
Man, and we've already talked about the pulling out of pulling out of Syria and abandoning our allies in Syria.
The Kurds.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
If anything, if there's ever anything that Trump could do that should motivate the armed forces and the veterans to stop being fucking hard right and to be like, this guy doesn't give a shit about the men that fought next to me, that died next to me, that helped protect me. Like, if this isn't the thing, then hypocrisy is the only thing. Yeah. Then that's it. It is an impossibility for me to look an armed services member in the face and say, like, that guy abandoned your allies. Yeah. That guy fucking walked away from the same people who fought alongside you. And if you're all right with that, then this brothers in arms comrade bullshit, stop jerking that shit off and just shut the fuck up about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. Yeah. That shit's done. The other thing we got to talk about is like the weird Giuliani connection to the Ukraine. Like, Giuliani's not a member of the government. He's just Trump's personal attorney. Yeah. His personal actual attorney. And like, people have been told to go talk to Giuliani. Yeah. And Giuliani is kind of puppet mastering this thing with the Ukraine. He's not even unelected or appointed or a security clearanced official. Yeah. He's just Trump's personal. That's like imagine if he did the same thing to his like personal trainer. Yeah. It's the same thing. That's not an employee of ours. We don't hire that guy. He doesn't answer to us. I know. He's just Trump's like personal chef. That's it.
I don't understand how that works anyway with Giuliani, but I will say this. I will say that the letter that Trump wrote was to Erdogan was at best fourth grade vocabulary.
Can you call it up? Can I read it?
Yeah,
Is
sure.
that okay?
Yeah.
Because it's only like 5-6 lines long. This is a letter that one head of state wrote to another head of state is just genuinely astonishing.
Oh gosh, I didn't even read this, but Vanity Fair says, is this real? Trump since third grade reading level. I gave it one extra grade. All right.
Dear Mr. President, let's work out a good deal! ! Are you kidding me?
Yes.
You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunson. I have worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Mazloum is willing to negotiate with you, and he's willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I am confidentially enclosing a copy of his letter to me, just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen.
Shut the fuck up.
Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. I will call you later. Later after he gets the letter? What time? Do you know what time you got the letter? I'm going to call him after the letter.
He threw it
arrived.
literally in the garbage. He took it. He might have crumpled it up and he threw it directly in the garbage.
You know, he was laughing his ass off.
How embarrassing is that that's our president? I mean, it's
maximally
it's
embarrassing?
Genuinely embarrassing.
Maximally embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Why have you consistently voted against campaign finance reform? We all know big money is running this country. Do they run you?
Hold on. Why don't we stop all the softball questions and ask some real questions, okay? Like, why won't Marty Huggins here take a lie detector test? Is he an Al-Qaeda? Is he a Taliban? I've seen a mustache like that before, and you know who wore it? Saddam Hussein. And I believe we never caught two of his sons, Uday and Falafel.
We'll talk for a few minutes about the latest debate that just happened. I just want to say straight out, the centrists just need to go. And the centrists recently, before, were sort of, they were attacking Biden because he was the big fish. He was the one who everybody was like, hey, Biden, got to go after Biden, got to go after Biden. And also he was like the head centrist. Right. So they wanted to like out centrist him. But like fucking
I cannot commit better than you cannot
Klobuchar,
commit.
Fuck you, Klobuchar. Holy shit, that lady. Folksy fucking Sarah Palin needs to go. And she is terrible. She is literally terrible. The shit she has to say, they all keep saying the same thing over and over about Medicare for all. It's not a hard concept.
Right.
They keep saying over and over, well, are you going to raise taxes? Well, are you going to raise taxes? That's an easy way to say, look, your program is bad. But it's such a stupid way to think about it. It's like someone coming to me and saying, Cecil, look, here's the deal. Your premiums, you're never going to have to pay any premiums. You're never going to have to pay any copays. You're never going to have to pay any of that stuff. Any more medical stuff is never going to come out. Your line item for your coverage on your that you pay every week, because you pay every week for your work, you pay money into that. That's gone. Your Medicare one will go up, though. That one's going to go up. But here's the benefit. It's never going to go up past the other one, if you add the two together, it's never going to go up. And everybody else gets health insurance.
Right.
Suddenly, it makes it super fucking amazing. Like, I don't understand how people don't add that little piece in that, you know what? Yeah, you might pay a little more in taxes. It's not going to be more than what you're currently paying for health insurance, but you are going to pay a little more in taxes, but everybody gets fucking insurance.
Right.
Period. The end of story. Every single person, every underinsured person out there, everybody in fucking crippling medical debt out there, everybody who sends us a fucking message every goddamn week that they've got to get a fucking, because their kid has cancer or their friend has cancer or their fucking arm fell off or all the fucking shit. Like, how many of these do we get?
Yeah,
we get these all the time because our country doesn't care about people, because we don't give a fuck. Because what we do is we say, well, cool. Well, hopefully the fucking hospital will fucking fund it. And then you can fucking spend years in crippling medical debt because that's all you got. That's the fucking future ahead of you. Instead, what we could say is, you know what, Tom, you might pay a little more for Medicare, and Cecil may pay a little more for Medicare, and Joe Blow may pay a little more for Medicare. It's never going to be more than your current premiums. And everybody gets health insurance.
Yep.
Why does nobody add that little piece in at the end? And Klobuchar, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. You're just like, oh, people love their fucking medical insurance, and I just want to do the best thing, and we should just use the ACA. Well, how about we fuck the ACA and we go with something fucking 1,000 times better, which is everybody gets health insurance.
Yeah, the Medicare can't be so bad if survey after survey after survey after survey always shows that people love fucking Medicare. It's like the most beloved thing. Like, people, when you survey people on Medicare, and they've done this again and again and again, and they say, like, how do you fucking feel about Medicare? People are like, I goddamn love Medicare so much.
Right.
Everybody who uses it loves it. Like, I used all of my, so like your health insurance, typically it's like, well, I pay a premium. Okay. Then you pay a copay. Okay. Then you pay a deductible. Cool. Then you pay an out-of-pocket maximum.
Yeah.
So you end up paying so much more than your premiums if anything happens. I had back surgery this year. So I've paid the maximum amount this year that I can possibly pay, which means that after that happened and I'm already out 5 figures out the door, right?
Yeah.
Then everything else that happens this year is covered by the insurance plan. And I gotta say, like, I'm still paying buckets of money every month for the premium.
Yeah.
The premium's the, but I gotta say, like, just not paying for a prescription out of pocket, not paying for a doctor's appointment out of pocket, in addition to the $700 a month I pay for my insurance premiums for the family. It's like, it feels like a Christmas present to go to the doctor and not get a bill.
Yeah.
It feels like and I got that Christmas present because I already paid so many bills, I can't pay any more bills.
Well, you know, it's funny because I don't go to the doctor very often. I go to the doctor like once or twice a year. Right. So I rarely go to the doctor. It's just something that I don't get a lot of very sick, or I don't get hurt very often. So I'm fortunate in that sense. And I just don't go. So for me, maybe my premiums, maybe I pay a little more. Right. I'm okay with that. And there's all these wealth taxes that they're talking about, and people are like kind of poo-pooing them. And I'm just like, get off the stage. Yep. Just get off the stage. You know, they're not talking about a lot of money. She's saying 2 cents from every person.
That's the thing. It's like, when you look at the amounts, it's nothing. The number one cause for bankruptcy is medical debt. Medical debt is the primary driver for bankruptcy. By the time you go into bankruptcy, so many other bad things financially have happened, not just to you, but to our economy as a whole. Every dollar that I spend on bullshit medical debt is a dollar that doesn't pump into the functioning economy. It's not a good I bought. It's not a service I bought. It's not a fucking bagel at that store over there. It's not clothes my kids get to wear that had to be purchased from that fucking, store somebody works at. It's all just bullshit. It's bullshit every time.
Yeah. I'm happy that Yang has brought into the public conversation the UBI. Mm-hmm. I feel like at one point Yang was pushing back on the ultra rich tax, saying it didn't work in Germany. So why would we try it here? And I'm just thinking Germany's different than here. Right. So let's not poo-poo that extra big tax on the wealthy. Let's keep that on the table. I'm okay with UBI. I've been since the beginning. I think it's a cool idea. I'm happy Yang is getting people. I think he's pulling people fiscally left, which is good. I don't know if he's pulling people, because again, every single question he answers with UBI fixes this. So I know some of his policies, but not a ton of his policies when it comes to anything social. But I will say fiscally, he feels like he's pulling people left, and that's good. Beto needs to go. Beto's awful. Beto's awful. Klobuchar needs to go. Biden's a wreck, and Biden needs to go. Biden
can't finish a sentence properly.
Gabbard needs to go. I think that there's a few people up there that I'm still like, I want to hear what they have to say, but some of these centrists just need to drop.
I want to talk about Beto for a second.
Yeah.
Beto is capitalizing on the gun issue, right? And we have a huge problem with guns. The problem with Beto is that his gun control programs have no ability to work. And I got to give props to Buttigieg for pointing it out. There was a moment in the debate, and they've been kind of sniping back and forth, but there was a moment in the debate where, Beto, in response to his policy, I don't know, that he wants to take everyone's, assault weapon. So it's not just a buyback, a voluntary buyback, but he would have a mandatory or enforced buyback policy, right? So Buttigieg was like, yeah, how would you do that when we don't know who has what guns? And he's like, well, I just trust that people would follow the law. Buttigieg called him back out on it again. He said, so you have no plan. You're saying it because it sounds good, but you have no ability to do it.
Right.
So all that shit does is it riles up the right, but you can't accomplish it.
Yeah.
That is a stupid fucking thing to do. That's not pulling, like, to your point earlier, like, that is all the problems of pulling to the left when you can't accomplish it. It'd be like saying, like, well, we should make carbon dioxide illegal.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. We should write a law that says there's no more global warming. That's a stupid fucking thing to do. Don't do stupid shit. And Buttigieg had a great point. He's like, look, we need to get the wins on gun control where they matter and where they're effective. And he listed off, like universal background checks and the red zone laws or whatever it's fucking called, where you're like
National Registry. Jesus
Christ.
You
might kill somebody, so we're gonna take your gun, like taking guns away from domestic abusers, like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That shit would work. That shit would actually accomplish something.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I feel like you had said it earlier to me that you feel like it was almost a plant by the Republican Party to just rile people up.
Feels like it.
And you know, like the thing is like, one, you're never going to be president. And two, you're saying shit to just literally rile people up. And you're going to, you may turn someone out on the other side to go vote. When they hear that soundbite of you coming to get their guns.
Yeah, it sounds scary, but it's like nobody thinks that that's possible. That's a stupid,
and that's
nobody knows who has them.
And that's the thing, right? Is like, look, like, don't get me wrong. I want to see more gun control in this country.
Me too.
I'm not somebody who doesn't think that we shouldn't have more gun control. In fact, I would go as far as to say we should have the ultimate gun control and have no guns. If there was some way to accomplish that, I would be 100% for not having guns in this country. Let's do it tomorrow if we can. I just don't think you have the political capital at all to ever get it done. But if you start doing things incrementally, you can at least work to a better solution. But if you just say, no, the only solution is to take all your guns, well, then you just don't have a solution.
Right. Like if you pass a law tomorrow called guns are banned, guns are illegal, it doesn't get rid of the guns because the people who have guns don't have to tell anyone they have a gun.
Yeah.
It's like a real problem. Yeah.
We're joined by Maya Van Rossum, the author of the Green Amendment, Securing Our Right to a Healthy Environment. Maya, welcome to Cognitive Dissonance.
I am so thrilled to be on the show today.
Maya, I have a starting question. Don't you have to have a certain amount of cognitive dissonance inherent in saying that we have a right to an environment? Don't we have a right to the money we strip from the environment? Yeah. I think we've made that.
We made that very clear.
Very clear.
Very clear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. If you ask anybody, do you have a right to clean water and clean air across the board? People will say, absolutely. Of course I do. And then when you actually explain to them that, no, here in the U.S., you don't. You have a right to free speech and you have private property rights and due process rights. You have gun rights, but you don't actually have the right to clean water, clean air, a stable climate, and a healthy environment. They're rather shocked. Because
I mean, not the people in Flint, Michigan. I think that they've figured that out.
Yeah, they learned that.
I'm only half kidding though,
right?
Because
that.
If they had a right to clean water the same way that like you have a right to an AR-15, the court cases would have already made it through to the Supreme Court. But instead, they're just like, I drink a lead pipe and I can't do math anymore.
I know, right?
And we're just like, welcome to Flint.
Yeah. Enjoy Legionnaire's disease.
Yeah, right.
Well, the thing is, though, they actually, even though they're getting totally toasted when it comes to the environment, whether you're talking about Flint, Michigan, or, frankly, communities across the nation, whether you're talking about the air or drinking water, all, fracking, all kinds of things. The fact that people are really getting slammed by pollution and degradation and they're losing their lives and their health and their property values, they still in their hearts believe that they have this right to a healthy environment. And so they can't understand how the government is allowing them to be so abused at the hands of industry, right? Like the profit-making industry. And they reference all the environmental protection laws we have, right? Because we have hundreds of thousands of environmental protection laws. And so they're just confused and concerned, and they don't understand why government is not coming to their defense. And more often than not, especially these days, seems to be going to the defense of industry because they do believe in their hearts, like, hey, it's a fundamental right. It's my right as a person to have clean water and clean air. And so they're actually confused rather than realizing the reality that they have gun rights, but they don't have clean water rights.
Yeah, but, so I want to ask about that. So you mentioned the hundreds of thousands of environmental protection laws that we have. Do those laws in aggregate create the functional equivalent of a right to clean air or water? And since I know that answer is no,
I know,
right? This is what we call a softball.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, you're right. The answer is no.
Yes. You nailed that. Oh, man. I'm going to go die on some water real quick. Go ahead and keep saying that. Yeah.
We can end the show now, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, the way our government operates, right? Our government operates so that they think about the environmental and the health ramifications and the harms of things after they've already made the decision, right? When the job comes, right? How are we going to permit it? How are we going to manage the pollution and the degradation and the health harms after we've already approved the fracking, the industrial operations, the development in the dangerous place or space, right? The cutting of the forest. We're going to approve that. And then later we're going to think about how do we deal with the environmental ramifications. And
really? It's that back? Don't they have to do environmental study before they can do a lot of... I'm not crazy, right? I've heard of this. Before you're about to do a big whatever project, don't you have to have some environmental study that says, I'm going to kill all the red-backed toads in Louisiana? Or like, am I crazy? I'm not crazy.
Well, see, you're not crazy, but you're down the line in the decision-making process, right? They've already decided, they've already created the law that allows the industrial operations or the development to happen in the way they want it to happen. And so when whatever comes in, right, that's going to kill the frogs or devastate the water or pollute the air or devastate the climate, right? The fundamental structure is already in place that will allow those projects to go forward and pretty much guarantee the industrial operator the permit that they need to operate. Those analyses that you're talking about are to figure out whether or not they're complying with the permits they need to do their industrial operation. But to get those permits, they just have to be able to check the boxes and say, I'm only going to release this much water pollution and this much air contamination, right? And so again, by the time you get down there, you're managing the inevitable harm and you're checking the boxes to know how much degradation you can allow. And some of the laws, you're right? You say, like, don't you have to do an analysis first? Don't they have to do environmental reviews first? There are laws that do require that. Again, they're down the line, usually when the law and the regulations have already been put in place that are allowing XYZ bad thing to happen. But even then, very often, like under the National Environmental Policy Act, this iconic federal law, the federal government has to do all sorts of reviews to learn about how much devastation is going to be inflicted by the dredging project or, the whatever project it is that the pipeline project, the fracking project they're going to allow. But after they've done the analysis and they figure out how much harm they're going to inflict and whether or not there are better, less harmful alternatives, the law does not require them to choose the less harmful alternatives. They get to do whatever they want. They just now know how much harm they're going to inflict on people.
So they're quantifying the inevitable. That's really like, they're post hoc quantifying the inevitable.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
So people come to these, particularly right now, there's a lot happening with this, thinking about fracked gas pipelines, right, and oil pipelines. And people are turning out to all these meetings that the National Environmental Policy Act requires the government and industry to hold. And they're creating comments, pages and pages of comments, and they're hiring experts and they're coming out to these public meetings whereby by the way, they only get 3 minutes to testify about how their lives are going to be devastated by this fracked gas pipeline that's going to go through their front yard or their backyard or, their favorite
Better
farms.
make it good. Better make it good in 3 minutes.
3 minutes and I got to make it good?
You got it. And you got to make it
I can make it good twice in 3 minutes.
I can't make it good.
For me.
I can't make it good in 3 minutes.
And very often these days, if you keep talking, right, they have the policeman right there to haul you out.
Jeez, I wouldn't make it past the introduction. Like, I have a series of jokes lined up. I got a solid 3 before we...
Let me just stop you, Maya, and say, here we are in this country. We've been told many times, and I think it's probably the truth because the president has said we have the cleanest water in the world.
He said that.
He has said this many times. Isn't that enough do we need extra stuff other than just like the president's word?
In some places and in some spaces you do. But there was actually a couple of years ago, there were some folks from the United Nations that came to communities here in the United States of America. And they said that the water quality, what people were drinking and experiencing was some of the worst water and the worst environmental conditions that they had experienced anywhere in the world. And these were investigators, right, that had gone to really horrible places.
Christ.
So it depends where you live. I mean, if you live in Flint, Michigan, you don't have some of the best water in the world, right? It doesn't matter.
We can't all live in the land of Dasani or wherever these people are from.
If you live right now, if you live near a lot of military bases, right, they're finding more and more of something called per and polyfluoral alkyls in people's drinking water. It's a toxin. Right. It makes people sick. It can give them cancer, and it's in their drinking water supplies because of Teflon, the military, the non-stick stuff you find on slippery food packaging and stain repellent carpeting and clothing. And because of this, up until very recently, only in some places, this largely unregulated chemical, we're now finding it in drinking water supplies in at least 36 states across the nation. So in those communities, their water may look good and it may smell good, and they may have thought it was good, but for decades they've been drinking very literally poison water. So no, their water's not the cleanest in the world, at least not to them.
Yeah, but if they were fracking nearby and fundamentally rending the earth until it groans in agonized protest. Obviously, that would help.
And then lets out a really beefy fart.
One of my favorite things about fracking is that, at this point, we are creating earthquakes.
I know.
And then we're just like, it's probably still okay.
It's fine.
We're probably still
okay.
I don't know if there's can you imagine if we created tornadoes from it? And we were just like, well, anyway, it's probably still okay.
But you love that natural gas, right?
Right, yeah. Right, the freedom gas, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But after all, I mean, the industry says it's not happening, right? And politicians say it's not happening, so it must not be happening.
It's just so objectively happening. There's no scientific controversy left from what I read an article not terribly long ago. There is no significant scientific controversy left around the results of fracking causing earthquakes. That's just a true thing now. Is.
It's funny because I remember when it first came out, we laughed at it.
We did. We were like, what?
We're like, come on, that's not going to cause. And then now we're wrong.
Yeah, we're wrong. 100% happening.
Totally wrong.
You know what you got to do? You got to revise your stance on things.
You got to think about things a little differently.
So how great is fracking for the environment? obviously, it is very, very good, right?
On a scale of 1 to awesome.
Okay, so I can't find a funny answer that tells you the truth. It's horrible. So all I can say is it's fun when I go and I'm doing my talks and I talk about the frackers and people instantly mishear what I've said. We actually, one of the things what's really scary is, so the other hat that I have, other than writing the book and starting this new National Green Amendment movement, is it is all an outgrowth of my 25 years of work as the Delaware River Keeper and fighting for the Delaware River watershed. And we actually have prevented, despite the fact that we have the shales necessary for fracked shale gas, we've kept fracking out of our Delaware River watershed for nearly a decade now. And still, despite that we've preserved our Delaware River, which is the drinking water supply of over 25 million people, we still had the industry and government seriously pressuring and thinking about opening up our watershed to fracking, despite the fact that all the other watersheds, right, all around us where fracking is happening are being devastated. Communities are being destroyed. We have cancer clusters for kids, right? Drinking water supplies contaminated, forests falling, right? Climate change, the known contribution of the methane to climate change just growing every day. And yet still to this day, we are battling to have to keep the frackers out of our watershed, a major drinking water supply on the East Coast. So it really is quite shocking. And it very literally is because industry comes in and says, there's no harm. And then the politicians in their pocket say, yeah, there's no harm. And so there you go.
So real quick, you know, as a lay person, my understanding is, and I know I'm joking about earthquakes, but my understanding that one of the major troubles around fracking is that after the resources are taken up out of the earth, you know, we pump a fair amount of toxic shit in there to get it out, and then a bunch of water gets pumped in there, and then all that shit leaks into the groundwater and the aquifers, etc., and you know, basically like poisons everyone around. Is the biggest problem with fracking the danger to the groundwater? Is that the biggest problem with fracking?
The problem with fracking is that there's dangers all the way around. And so if it was just one thing, right, if it was just the drinking water contamination, then you might say, okay, well, someday, some way, the industry is going to find a way to solve that problem, and then fracking will be okay. But the thing is, it's not just one harm. It's not just one problem. It is contamination of groundwater. It is contamination of drinking water. It is the release of climate changing methane, which is the most devastating climate changing gas when you're talking about the next 20-year time frame, which is what we have to talk about. It requires 10 to 20 million gallons of water to frack every single well. And to that water, the frackers add dangerous toxins and chemicals, many unknown, right? They don't disclose. And then when all that water gets pumped into the geology of the earth, it pulls up other contaminants in the earth, including radioactive materials. The majority of that water actually gets
It's so bad. It's so much worse. It sounds so worse.
You're like, I'm sorry, and I'm genuinely interested in this. This is amazing to have such expertise. But you're talking, and I'm looking over at Cecil, and it's getting worse. Every sentence you utter, I'm just like, at some point, she's got to say something good, right? Like, and then pirate treasure sometimes comes out of it. Like, what is something?
No. So we got to radioactive materials. Continue on from there.
Okay, so then the water that comes back to the surface of the earth is so toxic that even the industry doesn't have a good solution for what to do with it. So they use it for more fracking, or they store it in plastic-lined pits on the surface of the earth, which then becomes an invitation to the birds, right, who cause problems. Or you have a major rainstorm that washes it out.
Oh, my God.
Or they take it to Oklahoma, where they try to inject it in the ground and cause earthquakes.
Here's the thing, though. You're not going to mess anything up in Oklahoma.
I love it. Somebody's like, this is so toxic, we literally can't think of what do we do with it? I don't know. Bring it somewhere pointless, like
someone
Oklahoma.
starts singing Oklahoma. Just singing the. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh my God.
Hold on, no, I gotta rewind just for a second. So they make the most toxic goo you could possibly imagine, and then they're just like, I don't know, let's refrack with it.
That's like making coffee with your coffee.
It's like, we're going to take more water, a lot of it fresh water, and then we're going to add it to this really toxic water. So now that's toxic. And then we're going to take it and frack another one to make it more toxic. So that we can release methane. And to do all this, right, they have to, we're talking like, acres of land for each of these well pads, 3 to 5 acres.
Christ.
So then they often are cutting the forest, or sometimes they're putting these well sites very near homes, and in residential.
Can they put one in a preschool? Can I just ask? Can we put one in a baby's heart?
As the wildlife running by, they're just shooting a fire hose full of this goo and all the wild. This is so bad. The worst.
No, but you know what the scary thing is? So what do they do in some of the places? They take the wastewater from the fracking and they use it as brine on the roads, like when they need to brine the roads.
Okay, here's the thing, Maya. I really appreciate all this. I really appreciate all this knowledge, but when we're being sarcastic, we don't want you to one-up us, okay? That's how this works. When we're making jokes, you need to not say a true thing that's worse than the joke we just made.
Like, the only worst thing you can say is like, then we spray black people at lunch counters with it. Like,
Jesus Christ, this is unreal. I had no idea that this even happened.
So much worse than I thought.
This is so much worse. Oh my
God.
And I'm not even done. Right? we have the pipeline. Then there's more to the frackers, but then also we have to have all the pipelines, right, that are taking that fracking stuff. And by the way, they're not taking it to other places in this country so we can be energy independent. That's just bullshit. They're taking it to export it to overseas where they can sell it for more money. A large proportion, a growing proportion of this fracked gas, which is devastating communities here, devastating the climate for future generations. This is all to give send gas to other countries for their use, for plastics, for energy creation, and really to make money for the fossil fuel industry. But the pipeline companies, they get the power of eminent domain. So as soon as
Wait, that's a government reserved power. No, you must be mistaken. That's a government reserved power
that they give to the pipeline companies.
Okay, real quick, hold on. I want to rewind just a hair. Like, you make it sound bad, but it injects a lot of money into the economy. And if your baby gets sick, you can rub money on whatever made them sick. I think. Right, Cecil? Cecil, you're...
I love how Maya's trying to power through. I know. She's like, no, I'm not done yet. It gets worse. It gets worse.
I just want to tell you, they're not just rubbing money. So some places, right, in some homes, because of their contaminated water or the methane that's coming out of their faucet, bringing explosive gases into their homes, they don't want to wash their babies in their bathtubs.
Oh my God.
And they have to leave their windows open all year round so that they don't have an explosion.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Well, we clearly have all the environmental laws we need.
Tom, I quit the earth.
The earth is quitting us.
I'm done. I quit the earth.
Holy shit.
That's just like...
So we turn into plastic
and what's crazy about
kill
this?
a turtle.
What's crazy about this is that this is just one thing that we do, right?
Yeah.
This is just one way in which we extract energy from the planet. Yeah. This is just one way. And I know for sure that other ways in which we extract energy are probably just as bad.
Well, except clean coal, because the word clean is in front of that word.
Clean coal.
Clean coal is very... Maya, clean coal?
Yeah.
A+, double A+?
Yeah.
How many thumbs do you have up right now?
Well, if you're near a fracking site, maybe 15. Who knows, right?
Oh, my thumbs are webbed.
Remember all this stuff that I just told you, right? We have all those environmental protection laws in place, right?
Oh,
that protect the clean water and clean air.
Yeah, that's why you have to leave your house open when you wash your baby. What the fuck is happening?
But you have the right to bear arms.
Open the window.
Yeah, but your kid your kid doesn't have any right to arms. So, yeah. Okay, so we know this is horrid. We know that this is one thing that you know a lot about. What's the alternative? Like, clearly you think we need to change the Constitution. What's your suggestion?
So what we need to put in the Bill of Rights section of every state constitution, and then later, ultimately, the federal constitution. In the Bill of Rights section, very literally, the constitutional right to pure water, clean air, a stable climate, and a healthy environment. And we actually have that in 2 states. And one of those states, Pennsylvania, where they have a lot of fracking.
That's like the worst state for that, isn't it?
But they had it on the books. But then the court said it's just a policy statement, and they ignored it all the years that all this horrible stuff happened and the frackers came in. But then in 2012, there was a law that was passed by the Pennsylvania legislature that was going to make fracking even worse. They were giving the companies the power of eminent domain to force the storage of their gas under people's properties and automatic waivers from environmental protection laws, and mandating communities allow fracking, including their toxic wastewater pits, to be allowed to be located in residential communities, including as close as 300 feet from people's homes. And so we challenged that. I, in my role as the Delaware Riverkeeper with my organization and our attorneys, we challenged that. And we took this long ignored environmental rights amendment, and we used that to challenge those provisions of the law. And this very, very conservative Pennsylvania Supreme Court sided with us and said, you know what, for 42 years, we have been misinterpreting Pennsylvania's Green Amendment, their constitutional right to a healthy environment. And they totally revamped how they interpreted it and breathed legal life into the constitutional right to a healthy environment. And so we defeated these devastating sections of the fracking law. And we've been using, it was called Act 13. We've been using that Green Amendment now to battle on other fronts. See, the frackers were there first. So now we have to use the Green Amendment to sort of claw back the ground away from them. But we're having important successes. But as we've been doing that, I realized how powerful this was. Like, nobody talks about the right to a healthy environment in constitutional terms because nobody has it here in the United States of America. And I decided, you know what, this was a really powerful concept and I wanted to change that. And so I wrote the book, The Green Amendment, and I've started this new national Green Amendment movement. And that's why I'm in Kentucky. I'm working with communities across the nation to try to get green amendments added to every single state constitution across the nation and ultimately at the federal law. And as a result, we will fundamentally transform environmental protection here in the United States of America. So you have to think about preventing pollution and degradation first while you're making the decisions, not wait till the end of the process when you're only about managing it. And that's your good news for the day that you wanted. Who's your favorite candidate if you're just looking at environmental policies? Who's the candidate right now that you think is on point with environmental policies?
After Trump. Like on the left.
I think that the candidate who has been walking the walk or talking the talk or whatever, doing what he said for over 30 years, is Bernie Sanders. He's been very pro-environment. He's been anti-fracking from the get-go, and not just when it was convenient, right? When it was difficult. He's been talking about climate change when it was difficult. So,
yeah, but isn't Vermont an apocalyptic hellscape? Like, there's no...
Are there any legislators out there that have really tried to put a kibosh on this, that have tried to stop you from doing it? Have you run into some serious brick walls doing this work?
Well, the interesting thing is even the legislators that don't want to see it happen, even the industry representatives, right, that come to public hearings where you have this, even they are ashamed to say, I don't believe that you have a right to clean water or clean air, right?
So you were talking earlier, you had mentioned your son. What's your son's name?
His name is Vim. Vim Van Rossum.
Vim. Well, we would like to do something nice for Vim. We wanted to send Vim a shirt. Do you know what size shirt Vim is?
Vim would be so happy. A medium would be awesome.
All right.
I know he's only 13 and probably shouldn't be listening, but it's his favorite show.
Definitely.
He and I
definitely shouldn't be listening. But we definitely want to. We will send it. We will send.
No, cognitive dissonance.
A Snoopy shirt. Yeah. We'll definitely send him a shirt. We're going to get your information when we'll have Ian send out a shirt to you right away. Maya, we want to thank you for coming on and talking about this with us. This is really important work. If people were going to sort of just look into this or try to help out or try to figure out a way that they could help out, what would they do? Where would they go on the internet?
Go to www.forthegenerations, forthegenerations.org, and they'll find a lot of information, and they'll also find a way to get in touch with me. I have a team, of course, that works with me, but I will go anywhere, anytime to talk about this, because I really, really believe after 25 years of advocating and litigating for the environment, I absolutely believe that this is the path forward that we have to take if we want to make fundamental change. So I do whatever I have to.
When you get your next state on, when they come on board, come back on the show. We'd love to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'd love to. I hope it's New Mexico. They're really excited. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you. You guys do a great, great job talking about the environment, making it accessible, making it fun. And it really is making a difference because people really hear you. So thank you for doing that. You have a lot of shows where you do it beautifully, and I really appreciate it, and in a fun, funny way.
Thank you so much for coming on, Maya. And we will we'll put a link to both the website and to your book on this week's show notes. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we want to thank our patrons. Of course, we want to thank all our patrons, but we want to thank our newest patrons, Beelzebub's Favorite Heathen, Dylan, Sean, Patrick, Brandy, Mark, Samantha, Max, Dabin Llama, Jasmine, Alex, Jonathan, Inglorious Baxter, Jason, Catherine, Emerson, CC, David, Justin, I don't know that it's probably the something else. I'm sorry. And Adrian, thank you so much for your generous donations. We are going to send mugs to a couple people because we said we send mugs to 1 out of 5 patrons. They are citation needed mugs. So you have to, when you get the citation needed mug, download 1 episode of citation needed and listen to it. But for Dylan, Samantha, Jonathan, CC, and Adrian, contact Ian at dissonancepod.com. Send him an email. Say, I was mentioned in the show. I'm going to read your names again. Dylan, Samantha, Jonathan, CC, and Adrian. Send him a message. Say, hey, I'm looking for my free mug. He will then send your address to Tom, and Tom will then send you a mug. So I'm not going to say that the mug will be clean. Tom may have done something with it. I'm not going to say.
These mugs are delivered with love.
They're delivered with, so definitely wash it is what I'm saying.
Wash these mugs.
Yeah. So, but Tom's going to send you a mug. So tell Ian your address, and he will ship it out to you. We want to thank everybody for being a patron. We really genuinely do appreciate it. And we are going to be picking, I think, next week, because we have slowed down significantly. Next week is probably when we're going to call it. We will send you a private message. You will get a ticket through Eventbrite. If you said +1, you'll get 2 tickets. If you said just you'll get a single ticket. And you will get a message from us in that email that you sent to us. So the email that you entered will be the one that gets it. You will need to RSVP. And there will be things on there that says you need to RSVP in a week because we need to make sure we fill this thing. So if you don't RSVP, we will revoke your ticket. So you better say yes or no because we need to know who's coming and we got to make sure we fill the place.
Can we send them golden tickets somehow?
I don't know. Maybe we could just make it. Here's what you do, guys. Change all of your printer ink to gold.
There you go.
And then print it out.
Nailed it.
So, but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send out those tickets very soon, and let people know there's gonna be 30 people. Right now, it looks like you're about 1 in 6 chance of getting in. So pretty good. Not a bad chance.
Yeah.
But that is for the pizza party that's happening on December 7th. Remember that if you are a patron, you can still sign up for it until, like we say, next week when we start picking winners, and that's going to be next week. So we got a message from Brian, and Brian said that he is happy that we're planning on doing a 2020 election day. He said back in 2016, he just moved to Los Angeles, and he wound up spending the day at Disneyland, and he wore his "I voted" sticker proudly. And then he was trying to ignore everything else in the real world. He said, great night, but around 9 p.m. I made the mistake and looked at the vote counts. It wasn't called yet, but there were several key states that Clinton needed and lost. And the rest of the night I was sad in the happiest place on earth. I love it. So, Tom, Anthony has a correction for us about carrying a gun off duty.
Yeah, so a couple of people sent us this email, and I know I brought this up, so I want to eat the shit on this one. So, one of the things I didn't realize and take into account is that law enforcement, they are law enforcement on or off duty. So they have a duties similar. I was reading about this, similar like a doctor, right? Okay. A doctor has a duty to their license. So if they're walking by and somebody gets in a car wreck, they have to stop and administer aid. And law enforcement also has responsibility as a result of their job.
Sure.
So I get that. So I take back my comment that you don't have to carry a gun off duty. Clearly, the responsibilities as they're written for law enforcement would require that law enforcement carry when they're off duty. So that's my mistake.
So, but what's the requirement of shooting someone in their living room eating ice cream? Is that
100%? If you're confused,
is that something that police officers have to sign up for too, or
or if somebody's playing video games at night with their 8-year-old nephew?
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Then you shoot them in their living room.
That's a good one too. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is one where I mentioned, this is one from Eva. Eva sends in a message and wanted to let us know that that the prosecutor's job is not to get justice for the victim. That's not something that they do. They're working for the state. They're not working for the victim. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And that's true. You're right. And I also think that that might also be a bad way to think about it in general. It's just like that you're working. Like I feel like the victim is just sort of out of the equation, and they should be. And that's how our system is supposed to work. Although we seem to, like, if you ever watch like that Making a Murderer, where they just keep going back to like that victim's brother and just being like, they keep asking him questions and all that. So the victim's not really out of it, but they are kind of out of it. So
it's hard because the prosecution will frequently leverage the emotionality around the victimhood of the parties that are aggrieved.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to be like, oh, well, the victim isn't who you're working for. Well, you're sure leveraging the
Sometimes
tears.
they are absolutely leveraging it. Yeah. And we got a message from D, and D said that there is, I guess, a thing that they did, some sort of test where they take mammals of two different ages and they suture them together like fucking some crazy Dr. fucking Goring or whatever style. I don't know if that's a Nazi doctor or not. But like some crazy fucking thing where they suture them together, and then both the test subjects grow together sort of, and then they have like their blood sort of works its way into each's bodies, and one becomes a little younger and one starts to get the traits of the older one. So you can get like bad knees and shit. You're like the other one.
There's been a weird hardening of my political views. And arteries.
But I guess there is something to be said about certain types of blood, but it's not just like getting a transfusion doesn't do it.
It's also not drinking it.
Yeah, it's not drinking it. It's not getting a transfusion. It's like she would have to, like Hillary Clinton would have to have like a young person attached to her back.
You
like
have to graft a baby to you like a fucking hump.
You just have like your biceps are two
babies,
and you're walking around with two babies as biceps.
Damn, have you seen these babies?
So we want to mention that the American Atheists have a U.S. secular survey. We're going to put a link to it on this week's show notes. It's really good data for you to fill in. So if you have time and you want to take this survey, American Atheist is looking for people to take this survey. We talked to Jeff Blackwell this week. He's the lawyer for American Atheists, their counsel. He's a great guy, and he wants to make sure that we have the very best data that we have. Now, it's not going to be a scientific poll or anything like that, but it will gather a ton of data for them, data that they can use to become a better organization. So please, if you have time, please take a moment to fill out this survey. It'll be on this week's show notes. We got a message from the couple next door, and they mentioned we should maybe do a deep dive into the national debt. That's an interesting idea to do, but we would definitely need somebody who would have some real expertise. So if anybody has any ideas on who might have some real expertise into the national debt, send the message to us at dissonance.podcast@gmail.com. Maybe we can get an interesting guest on to talk about it.
I think it would be a great interview show.
Yeah. So Holly Dazzle sends a message and says, as a burlesque performer, I am both surprised and delighted to hear how much both Tom and Cecil know about the mechanics of tassel twirling. Anything we should know about how y'all gain such insider knowledge? Well, I will tell you this. With my moves, I can move them and shake them so I don't have to lift my arms to take my shirt off. So I will say that, Holly. I have trained my moves to take my shirt off for me.
Holly, I don't know how you think I paid my way through college, but
it's with tassels, baby. We got a message from Kimberly, and Kimberly sent in a message about protesting on their campus at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. There's a hate preacher that comes there every week, and they were able to take signs out. Only a couple of them, and there was only a couple of them in this image anyway, that went out there and stood in the face of this hate preacher and said that we had helped her to be able to stand up to this person, and anything we did was only in the background. You were the one standing up to that person.
Yeah,
so good for you.
Awesome.
And that's awesome. Don't let anybody like spread their hate. So good for you. I wanted to stop before we end just to say thank you to all the people that we met at the Citation Needed live show in New York. I want to say specifically, there was a couple people that I didn't get a chance to speak to. One person caught us just as we were getting ready to go on. We were in a mad rush to try to get ready. And I don't know their name. They came up. It was a couple. The young lady had glasses on and she had dark hair. It was pulled back. I don't remember what the gentleman looked like. Probably had a beard. That's how most of them look.
Standard.
But they both came up to us and they said they were so excited to meet us, and we didn't have an opportunity to really talk to them because we were in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff, and I did not see them later. I just want to let you know, if you ever come to another live show or anything, I will take some time out of my day. I really am regretful that I didn't get a chance to talk to you in person, but I did get a chance to talk to a ton of other people. Several people were just sort of fleeting. They said hello. They shook my hand. Several people came up and said, I know you got a lot of other stuff to do. There was a guy that I talked to about swords for a while, which was awesome. There's another fella who told us awesome stories about his time as an ambulance driver.
Oh, it's so funny.
There was another fella who told me all about his time in the military. There was a woman who said she was 30, or who said she was 50, who lied completely and was actually 30. Her name was Benice. She told me that she wound up leaving religion because of some of the things that she heard through our show, that how we could laugh at religion, and it taught her to laugh at religion, and she was able to leave it. We had so many meaningful conversations. I just want to say thank you to everybody we spoke to. I might not remember all your names, but I definitely remember all of you.
It's always such a crazy thing to come out to one of these events and run into folks that are just like you don't understand. Like, we're as excited to meet you guys as you are to meet us.
Exactly.
Like, this hobby has changed my life.
Yeah.
It has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And so like you guys seem like it's like this, oh, we're so excited. I'm as excited to meet you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of this would happen if we didn't have people who were interested in the things that we had to say, who were happy to come out and meet us somewhere, who were able to become patrons, who were able to come out and see a show live or go to an event that we were at. So the amount of shit that I owe to the fans of this show is innumerable.
Yeah.
And it's such a pleasure and a privilege to meet all of you.
Yeah. We want to thank Maya Van Rossum for joining us today. Maya wrote the book, The Green Amendment, Securing Our Right to a Healthy Environment. We are going to put a link on this week's show notes to all the stuff that she talked about. She was a wonderful guest, super knowledgeable, and we hope to have her on the show again. That's going to wrap it up for this week, though. We're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi-alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death in towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.